kind of building that up from a macro scale and then dialing that into a micro scale.
It's not a checkered flag that pops into my mind. It's the pagoda, because it's the one recognizable thing that's different from any other speedway. So your colleagues have highlighted how your service is extended from local to state to even national levels of AIA. Looking back, which moment of service or leadership has been the most transformative for you personally?
From the beginning, we knew we wanted to take the building's bones and make something really nice for the employees and staff that were going to be moved.
Today we are sitting down with Mark Trier, who is receiving the Citizen Architect Award at this AIA convention. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You've been retired for how long now?
2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
So even in retirement, 2 years of retirement so far, you co-founded the Kentucky Architectural Foundation. What inspired you to step into Chapter 2 of service to the profession?
Well, I never sit still, so I always like to stay involved, and especially with architecture, that's my passion. But on the board of AIA Kentucky, I learned that our state does not have a charitable organization to facilitate education of architecture in Kentucky. In other words, a 501c3 board. So in doing research at states around us, they all had one for several years. So needed to bring Kentucky up with its bootstraps and make that happen. And I think the final impetus was Randall Vaughn and I met each other going through the process of becoming fellows with the American Institute of Architects. And we were invested and got our special medal. Being a fellow, the dean charged everyone with, what can you do now to make a difference in people's lives? And Randall and I looked at each other. We said, we're going to make this happen in Kentucky.
That's awesome. Good story. So you've served on countless boards and nonprofits. How do you decide where an architect's voice is most valuable in the civic life?
Well, that's an interesting question, because architects, they really affect everything in the built environment, from your schools to your neighborhoods, your home neighborhoods, and it's important to educate people. We're trained as creative thinkers and problem solvers. So we're always solving the problem of designing a building or helping out a park with drainage. And that voice in civic was to continue to educate everyone about what architects do and how it can help just in general the built environment. So in hiring people over the years as manager of the firm, I just saw the education costs just going up astronomically. And that's why this foundation was created, to help educate architects. And once they learn about the profession, then they can go out and become civic leaders like the more seasoned architects. So that was my impetus, to create that civic voice, to enhance architecture, get more people interested in the profession.
Well, have you seen that working?
Well, this is our first year, and at this convention, we're actually giving away our first set of scholarships.
Oh, wow.
We
Okay,
have
cool.
6 students in architecture schools throughout the state. So we're going to present those students with $1,000 scholarships. Wow, $6,000 scholarships. And so we're excited about that, because the AIA has gotten behind us. We're soliciting contributions. We've raised $75,000, so we're halfway to our goal of $150,000. But we had to turn away students. The need is there, and we don't have the money. So it's all about collecting and making sure that we can give a great education to people that are interested in architecture.
What do you think are the chances that someday you'll be able to help 100% of those students?
Well, I hope that's our 3-year plan to get to that point. And then we've connected also with national architectural foundations throughout the state and learning best practices for them. And actually, we are on their website, so people coming to school can connect to that and find a great resource in terms of monetary funds.
Gotcha. What advice would you give to architects who are nearing retirement, like yourself, who want to continue contributing beyond practice?
Well, first of all, retirement's great, but then I'm never still. So my wife says, you're always doing something, but I looked at it as a new chapter in my life, because I loved my firm. I loved our people, our partners, our employees. But now I can connect not only with them, but with other firms and help out students to get excited about architecture like I am. But it's good. you're nearing retirement, think of it as an opportunity to change your life goals, to do something different. And, say with your profession, that's even better. So I got the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. Before we stop, how can people find out more about your foundation?
We have a website,
Okay.
and it's Kentucky Architectural Foundation.org. And we have a great mission statement, and you can get into that in terms of the website. And people at this convention, we have a booth, so you can come and meet with us, and I'm happy to make personal visits to tell more people about what we do and why it's so important.
Very cool. Awesome. Mark, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure
Thank
talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Brandon Farley, congratulations on receiving the Outstanding Service Award. You've championed the Indiana High School Architectural Design Competition for 20 years now?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. What's the most surprising thing you've learned from working with high school students on design?
So, when we first started the competition, when I first started working on the competition, it was 2005. I guess there's been a couple surprises along the way because it's, after you've been doing something for 20 years, you sort of see these evolutions in the ways of how students work. I've always been really impressed with the amount of the quality that a high school student can put out. And what's really interesting is you can see the difference that a teacher makes. Like one of the greatest predictors of success in a competition is I know if, any group of students is coming from a certain school, if that school has a really strong professor, a really strong instructor, it probably makes more of a difference than anything else. The software they're using, or they're doing it by hand, or how they approach the problem. It's really about the quality of the instruction. But surprising, I think, when we talk to some of our jurors, we get jurors from Ball State and IU Columbus and Notre Dame to come and be the final round of jurying in the competition. They'll say, "Oh, this is like second year college student work."
Wow.
Because the students that are really into it and they're really passionate about it, you can see that come through, and you can see the time and the effort they put into it. Be able to produce entries at a really high level, that are pretty impressive. Every once in a while, the entries that you get and you look at and you're like, not only is this good, but if I drew this, I'd be proud. This is
Wow.
a perfectly, it's not only a perfectly good solution, this is an impressively good solution. And so to see that coming out of students that have very little formal education is surprising and encouraging and shocking and wonderful all at the same time.
Very cool. Mentorship is clearly a passion of yours. I can tell just by listening to you talk. How do you measure success when it comes to inspiring the next generation?
So to me, I think what we're really trying to do in the competition is help people figure out what they're into. So I joke with the students that if they enter the competition, and they like it, you might have a good career in architecture, but it's if you're in the competition and it's not for you, you don't enjoy it, then architecture is probably not for you, because it's all the fun of being an architect, but none of the bummers. There's no budget, there's no building codes, there's no gravity, right? It's all the very best parts of design. And so to me, real success isn't necessarily going, finding the next architects. I think if I can at least help you figure out something you either do or don't want to do in the future, you've really helped them along with their path in life. Figuring out what you're not into or what you don't want to do is just as valuable as figuring out what you do want to do, And I think about myself in high school. One of the problems that I had is I was interested in lots of things, but I didn't really know. I didn't know where to go in life, or what to do, or what to study, or what to pursue. My parents wanted to help, but they didn't go to college. They didn't really know how to help. So I didn't have anybody to help point me in the right direction. And I think if I had, entered the competition at least earlier in high school, I could have gone, oh, this is a potential option for me. This is interesting and engaging, and I like the challenge and the process of design and thinking through it and coming up with a more developed answer the more that you worked on it. And I think maybe that could have put the thought in my head that maybe I should consider architecture, but I came to architecture like very late in my high school career, or maybe early in my college career, because I didn't have anybody to help point me in the right direction. So I don't know if that's really a measure of success, but I think that's the real value, right? Is that as a young student, you can help, at least whether you're into architecture or not, you can help kind of steer somebody's path towards something or some profession that they might be really passionate about and have a long career in the future.
I can see that. How has leading this program changed your perspective on what the future of architecture could look like in Indiana?
So I think that's a good question. Seeing the evolution of like technology and seeing students like adapt different technologies over time. When we first started, there were quite a few students drawing everything by hand. Then we moved into another world of computer, and now they're like maybe branching out even a little bit more into different design tools. I think it's heartening to know that there's a lot of talent out there, and to know that some percentage of these students are going to go in and into the architectural profession, and know there is a next like talented wave and the talented generations of architects in the hopper. I don't really know if that's surprising or not, but I think it feels good to know that there's still a level of passion and still a level of interest and talent for the student, for future architects as these students pass the competition.
How long do you see yourself continuing with the design competition?
It's a good question. I guess I'll keep doing it for as long as I think it's fun. So I started in 2005, and it was just like something to do. And then it didn't take long after I started, seeing the students come through, and you work with them. We have a design workshop where we invite students from all over the state to come in, and we teach them about architecture, we teach them about design, and like have them try to apply those lessons to that year's competition. So you have that first touch with them, and then at the award ceremony, you see what they've submitted, right? And then like you go, oh, you've produced something really great and really wonderful, and you get to compliment them on all the hard work. And you see the smile on their face, and like some of them will go like, oh, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but this was really for me. It's like, yeah, this, you were really good at this. You can go on and do something like this. You have a strong career here if it's something you're interested in. So like seeing that process happen every year, maybe one day if that's not fun for me again or anymore, like maybe I'd stop. But like,
Is that like a feel good moment for you?
it feels fantastic.
It's awesome.
But in the same way, like I'll talk to students, I'll go, did you like it? And they'll go, no, like this isn't, like I didn't like this at all. And they'll go, I think I want to be like a structural engineer. I want to be like a more like mathematical field and the less like, there's lots of areas of gray in architecture, right? There's not necessarily all right answer, but there's answers that are righter or wronger than others. And some students really aren't into that. And I think that's wonderful too. And I feel just as good about those students because we help like move them in the right direction.
Yeah, help them make a decision.
Yeah, as I do about the students that go, I loved it and this is for me. Like I have a future.
Cool. Well, congratulations again on getting the award, and thank you for your time.
Thanks.
All right, Chase Miller, you are winning the Tony Costello Young Architect Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been recognized as a leader who's in the trenches with your team. What does leadership look like when you're shoulder to shoulder on projects?
Yeah, I think it's some would call it leading by example, but to me, it's just plain leadership, right? Just getting in there, doing the work. Don't expect your team to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. Sure. So part of, getting the job done is working alongside my team, jumping in there, helping them grow, guiding them through the process. The work we do, we're continually learning. And so I'm learning things alongside of them. I'm teaching them things. They're teaching me things. So it's that kind of evolving life cycle of a project and of your career, right? And just because you're kind of sitting in different seats or different roles on a project, just getting in there, doing the work with them, it bonds you as a team. It builds trust with your team. And yeah.
Cool. Healthcare architecture is a challenging sector. What's one lesson about design or humanity you've learned from working in that space?
So healthcare architecture is hard. It is designing for people who are experiencing some of the worst days of their lives. Or if you're having a baby, maybe the best. Um, and so you have everything on that spectrum, and you've got also staff members who are literally treating people and caring for people and family members who are having the worst days of their lives. And how do you equip the staff and the physicians through the space to care appropriately for those patients? So thinking about healthcare architecture, you have to look at it through that lens, right? Who are the people using the space that are going to be in the space? And that really impacts and informs everything that I do in healthcare design. So kind of building that up from a macro scale, and then dialing that into a micro scale into, where is the recliner or the couch in a room? Where is the sink? What is easy for family members to move about the room? How can they customize their environment? And then also the provider, they're walking all across the facility, the caregivers, what's easy for their workflow, helping shape their spaces. So maybe pulling back a little bit, on the worst day of their life, on the best day of their life, you have to use empathy and putting yourself in their shoes. We're all patients ourselves. We're all, at some point, will intersect with the healthcare environment. We'll be a patient at some healthcare facility. What do we want to see? How do we want to be treated with dignity, respect, and empathy? And so thinking about that really informs design decisions.
Interesting. Now, it makes sense when you say it, but beforehand, I've never would have thought about putting empathy and architecture together. That's interesting. Yes. You're active in professional organizations and conferences. How do those roles shape you differently than project leadership does?
So it kind of extends that, right? So project leadership, organizational leadership, stepping that back into conferences and professional organizations, it just kind of casts a wider umbrella of leadership. So extending that network beyond my teams and the projects I'm working on into community organizations and professional organizations. And it allows me to be a better leader of my projects because I'm taking lessons learned from the broader industry, bringing them back to my teams, and vice versa. It's bettering the industry as a whole by taking things that we're working on within the office and our projects and applying those on a broader scale and taking that to the industry and what they're doing. And then also aligning that with civic organizations and involvement in non-for-profits and things like that. It's just a huge opportunity to give back with like-minded organizations that are really passionate about people and doing good in the community, and engaging my teams with that work.
And I'm going to put you on a spot with a question.
Oh, come on, bring it.
What does it mean to you to win this award?
Oh, man. I'm extremely honored to win this award. And admittedly, I do feel young because it's called the Young Architect Award. While I may not be, the youngest in age, but makes me feel younger. But yeah, I think I've been nominated a couple years before, and to win it this year, it's really cool. And I think it is a testament to the work that a lot of our teams are doing. I mean, it's really not just me, but also the teams around me that do fantastic work. And I couldn't be where I am without a lot of the people that have invested in me and then invested in the work that we do.
Sure, they would appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time and congratulations.
Thanks.
Heather Zito, you are getting the Walter Blackburn Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you've been called the quiet professional in sustainability, someone whose technical expertise speaks volumes. How do you build such deep knowledge in this evolving field?
I think it really starts with passion. I started my career as an architect, so that's what I went for school. And back then, sustainability really wasn't talked about. I mean, there were elements of it in what we studied, but there wasn't a focus. Like now you can go to almost any university and have a focus in sustainability management, financial, it's in all of these realms, which is great. Didn't really understand or know what it was until I started working. And it's one of those things when you find it, you just know, right? That that's the thing that you want to go after. That's the thing that you want. Interesting kind of loop back with the award is my first introduction into sustainability work was actually working for Walter Blackburn's firm.
Oh, cool.
Back in 2002, our firm was awarded the contract to do the lead sustainability consulting for the Indianapolis airport campus. And until that point, I had no idea what LEED was. And just kind of learning that, understanding what other places, other architecture firms, other states were doing and moving forward, and where we were doing, like, that it was possible, just kind of invigorated this, I'll go back to passion, right? That there was this world out there that we weren't getting. And so, I just went after it.
That's a bit of a coincidence, having worked for the company.
Yes, it is.
Very cool. Mentorship kind of seems to be essential to your impact. What's your favorite way to bring younger architects into the sustainability conversation?
So mentorship is really important to me. I truly believe I wouldn't be where I'm at in my career if I didn't have some really strong mentors in my life, both professionally and personally. And so I'm also a true believer in the whole filling your cup. You have to fill your cup before you can give to others. And it's so important to fill other people's cups as well. And so knowing the impact that I had, I really want to make sure that I give that back. And I love seeing that I can share my experiences and my knowledge. And it doesn't mean that they're going to take the same path or do the same thing, but they can take that and then kind of mold it right into where they want to go with their career. And so just to see that spark of knowledge and share the experiences, the impact that sustainability has had on me and my career, the path divergence that it's had, that we all start at different places, but we can end up working on sustainability. I've met people that have done teaching degrees and ended up in sustainability engineering. So all of these different paths, and being able to take their experiences and kind of bring them forward and see where they go with them.
Gotcha. As a sustainability practice leader, what's one thing you'd like to see Indiana architecture firms embrace more boldly in, say, the next 5 years?
I think for me, it is the understanding that architecture and engineering firms, but architecture firms, the design industry within Indiana really needs to be the catalyst to push things forward. We have the kind of most ancient energy codes in the nation. As a standard, we have little to no incentives for sustainable design. We have zoning ordinances. And so you have those clients that come forward and say they want it. But I think that I really want to see the architecture. They lead the project teams. They're the prime on the projects to really lead the hard conversations. It doesn't mean all of the projects are going to go a certain way, but to really have those conversations with the clients, to have them understand that this might be base standard as our code, but this is really where the rest of the United States is. This is where the rest of the world is going. This is going to be better for your return on investment, for your employees, for the life of the building, for the community. And so to really push the industry forward.
So having worked for Walter Blackburn, what does it mean to you to get this award?
It means a lot. I mean, I started my career at Blackburn in Indianapolis with Blackburn Architects. I started there about a month before Walter passed, so I unfortunately did not get to meet him, but worked with his wife, Alpha, and worked on his last big project that he brought to the firm, which was the National Underground Railroad Museum in Cincinnati.
Oh, very cool.
And so really learned so much about my career. That's where I got my passion and that spark for sustainability there. So yeah, this is really meaningful to kind of have that in my career kind of come full circle.
Awesome. Heather, thank you for your time. And again, congratulations on the award.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kyle Spurgeon, you are getting the Emerging Professional Award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Your colleagues say you transform challenges into opportunities. Can you share a moment when a roadblock turned into a breakthrough for you? Oh, maybe I should have prepped with the questions here. Roadblock into an opportunity, right? Um,
Well, when a roadblock turned into a breakthrough for you.
sure. Recently working on a project with a large scale redevelopment of about 60 acres, I think, working with the city to try to get a development plan put into place so that we could do this large scale multi-use complex on a rural property here in the Versailles Lexington area. Ended up hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock with that very tumultuous project. Anytime you're trying to use agricultural land for use other than agriculture here in the state of Kentucky, it's very contentious. But it just so happened that through that, we ended up finding a much larger property, 118 acres, already zoned for the use that we wanted to use it for, wound up being a much more lucrative, much larger scale project for the client ultimately. So while that wasn't necessarily turning apples into oranges there, or it wound up being a much better project. So anytime I'm faced with a challenge, I like to try to find the opportunities in it. Anytime anything's presented to you as a roadblock, there's typically something better waiting on the other end of that, in my opinion. So I like to look at the bright side of any instance like that.
So when you have these roadblocks that you turn into opportunities, it sounds like sometimes they end up better than when you started.
I would say more often than not.
Wow, cool. You're described as approachable and joyful. How do you think personality plays into success as a young leader in architecture?
100%, I think. So it wasn't always that way. Starting out into my career, I don't think I would have been described in that fashion.
As
but-
joyful?
Yeah. Or, approachable. And I have found that through work on that side of myself, doors began to open for me. You typically tend to receive what you put out there in the world. And I've found that through small changes to the way that I approach other people, I have found that I have received that tenfold on the other end, and you fall into a lot less of those conversations that would lead you to be unapproachable or lead you to be non-joyful. So,
Got any tips for anybody else anybody out there that wants to change their personality?
well, attitude is everything.
Sure, it's just a different way of thinking about things. Okay.
Absolutely. Going back to the first question that you had about roadblocks being seen as opportunities. If you approach everything as if you chose it, somebody said this on a podcast I was listening to recently, so I'm not going to take credit for it. But things like traffic. You're sitting down, you're listening to your music. If you approach that situation as if you chose it, and instead of white knuckling the steering wheel, getting yourself all frustrated to the point where it's going to ruin the entire rest of your day.
I will work on that part myself.
Approaching things with positivity is always going to end up with a better result than the other one.
Great advice. Thank you. Looking ahead, what kind of mark do you hope to leave on both your firm and the wider profession as you grow?
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to get involved with the AIA, is just being an advocate for the profession, trying to have some small hand in leading the profession into the future. There's a lot of change happening in the architectural industry right now. So I hope to have a positive impact. I'll say that. I'm a big proponent of being a leader for the next batch, the next generation of architects. And so I'll just say a positive impact. I hope to have a positive impact on the next generation.
Well, I mean, you're winning an award. What does the Emerging Professional Award actually mean to you? Getting that, being awarded that?
It's an incredible honor for me personally. I mean,
I haven't been involved with the AIA that long, but the work has been extremely rewarding for me. You know, anytime you can get like-minded, passionate people in a room together that are that passion is infectious. So through small work, it's grown to larger work with the AIA and industry as a whole, and it's very humbling. I feel very honored to win the award. It was a big surprise. You know, I didn't even know I was up for the award, so very humbling, and I feel very appreciative.
Appreciate. It's a good word. Kyle, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Jonathan Hess, congratulations on winning the 25-year award and getting your gold medal last night, which I didn't even know about. This is about the pagoda at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which I'm very familiar with because I'm also from Indianapolis. Yeah. The pagoda has become as iconic to the speedway as the checkered flag. Looking back, what design decision has most contributed to its lasting relevance?
Well, good morning, Matt, and thanks for the question. It's a quarter century now that the pagoda has been sitting there, and before that, of course, there were 2 or 3 others, and I think the design cues actually were taken from the context, really, of the speedway. The palette of materials is very simple. It's glass and concrete and steel, and if you looked around at the work that had been done, after the wooden bleachers were taken down, that's really the material palette of the speedway. So what we did, I think, was pay careful attention to the history that allowed us to sort of take that those prior control towers and merge them into something that looks back in history and takes those cues, but in a material sense, then sort of maybe push the limits a little bit with respect to how that palette was put together. It's interesting you use the word icon. In all the time that we were working on the project, no one mentioned icon. It was really more about providing race control and security up top at that time, and some corporate hospitality for the Holman family at the time. And it's humbling actually now to see it as a mark, right? It has become part of the brand of the Indianapolis for sure, Motor Speedway, and so that's it's really gratifying. I get to go in it when it's quiet, and as I say to folks, what I think is most interesting about the design, which is really atypical in architecture, is that the facility comes to life just a few times a year. Yeah, and so I've described it as the polite gentleman in the gray suit in the corner waiting for the party, and it dresses up pretty well for the party. It sort of holds its own, and a lot of good people worked on the project over the years. So yeah, 25 years. It's humbling that it's still in pretty good shape.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe aging better than me, and so thankful for all of those sort of attributes that we were, given to sort of come up with that design.
Well, it's interesting that you use the word brand, because it's almost like from speedway to speedway across the United States, it is, I mean, that's the one thing that people picture when they think of the Indianapolis 500. It's almost like the city skyline of the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah.
And when you say Indianapolis 500, it's not a checkered flag that pops into my mind. It's the pagoda, because it's the one recognizable thing that's different from any other speedway. So that's really cool. Its steel wings and floating glass were way ahead of their time back in 1999. How did you convince the stakeholders to take that leap?
Well, I think we had great support in the facility department there. Kevin Forbes was there at the time, and he had he was very supportive. Tony Holman Tony George was very instrumental in support of the design. I think if if you sort of dissect the design a little bit, what you see is the 1920s pagoda, and then you see the 1950s pagoda. Um, or it was actually the 50s control tower, if you remember that. It was just, sort of a very modernistic, very, for the 50s, just glass and aluminum. And we sort of merged those together. And so in trying to solve the problem of we'd never done a pagoda before, how do you sort of do that in the modern vocabulary? And what we really started to understand was that viewed from the racing line, it was the first time we sort of used the computer to understand what the television audience was going to see. We started to realize that, these long, broad lines that are the wings or the patios actually became great corporate hospitality spaces. Part of the 500 to me is, sort of being outside and being a part of the celebration, the crowd, the smells, the sounds. It's all part of that, sort of racing. So how did we convince them to do that? I think there were a couple things. It was all about view, unobstructed view from the inside. And so the Pilkington system that we use, which was a British system, actually, it was the first time we'd used it. It had been used in the States a few times, certainly. But it's a tension glass system that really provides unobstructed views from the inside. So that was sort of an easy one, that, you could convince or help people understand that you would have an unobstructed view from turn 4 all the way down the main straight into turn 1. And if you put any sort of vertical mullions in place, we did show them that you would actually lose sight of the cars.
Okay.
So that was fairly, it was kind of crude, computer graphics at the time, but it helped them understand that it was worth the investment with respect to that. So, yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think there's a lot of steel in the building, and we had a great time, with the structural engineers, Fink, Roberts, and Petrie, George Fink did all of the sort of structural engineering in the 30s in the grandstands, and his successor firm did the work on the pagoda as well, and the other things that we did for the Formula One improvements back in 2000.
That's a cool bit of history.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to be able to, sort of reach back. And the original working drawings for all those grandstands was available to us. So, some of the details we just updated, slightly from the 30s.
Gotcha. Well, after 25 years of race days and global audiences, what has surprised you most about how the pagoda has aged and has been embraced?
What surprised me the most? I think that it's been embraced by so many people, race fans or visitors that aren't necessarily race fans. I think because it's fairly unique as a building type, that you don't see it every day. I think the other thing, to me, the very first time I went to the Motor Speedway was in the early 80s. And my boss at the time had loaned me his bronze badge. That provided access to the Speedway at the time. And I arrived at the Motor Speedway being, I knew kind of where it was in the city, but when I got to the east side, I was like, well, where's start finish? There was no recognizable icon or marker, right, from that, sort of vantage point when you're a mile long on the straights and, 5/8 in the in-betweens. So I think the other thing that it's done is it's given fans an idea that when you're remote in turn 3, where that start finish line is. So I think, it's made a place. There's the business side of the pagoda, which is the racing line, but then there's also now the fan side of the pagoda, which is, the infield that has developed around it. So I think, over the course of time, everyone's understood that there's a need to recognize where start finishes, but there's also a place for, the fans to congregate. And with the new updates that they've done with the large screen, video on the infield side, it's been great to see it become a real active fan zone as well.
One of my favorite parts about running this podcast is learning more about the people behind design. So let me ask you a question, and I've been asked this before, but I don't know the answer. When you found out that you were awarded this project, what were the first thoughts that went through your head?
Well, I'm
Did you throw a party?
no. I think I grew up in Illinois, listening to the race, certainly, and I'm kind of a gearhead, so I like things that go fast, and I like the technology associated with going fast. I don't go fast anymore because I'm old. I'd left that behind to other people. But I think what settled on my brow pretty quickly was more people would see this structure than anything else our firm would ever do.
That's true.
And it would be across the globe. And so I think there was an abject fear, but there was the mantle of responsibility to do it right. That here in vested in Indianapolis, right? We were given the charge to do a building that would work, function, be effective in communicating the history, of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And to a certain extent, I think it's with some reverence, I think, because building out there is like building in a city, and so you didn't want to do anything that was untoward or inappropriate or not lasting. And so I think, minimizing the palette, like I talked about earlier, and just making it almost raw, and as strong as George Fink's, sort of grandstands, so that it would all be of the same context and be of the same flavor, so I think, humble to have the opportunity, and it's been, I sit on the in the penthouse paddock, so I got a great view of the pagoda during race day, and it's just really wonderful to see all the terraces filled up and the color, and it comes to life, like I said, rather than being this sort of quiet, inanimate object. But some of my favorite times are also when I can be in that same position in the grandstand without anyone there. It's really quite a unique, sort of setting to see the speedway absolutely quiet. The infrastructure that it takes to run the race is certainly there and evident to you. But it's that gray man in the suit waiting for the party.
Well, thanks for sharing that. So you also won the gold medal.
Yes.
Tell me about that, because it was a secret to everybody. Was it a secret to you as well?
No, they let me know.
Just to make sure you show up.
I think, to get here. Again, humbled for the opportunity to be considered. I think, when I moved to Indianapolis right after graduate school at the University of Illinois, the city was, it was not an open book for architecture, but certainly there were opportunities that for a young architect, sort of dabble. My first real big commission at the firm was the Idle George Museum. And so for 4 years, I sort of worked with Mr. Idle George, and we made him happy.
Oh, good.
And
It's a good museum.
well, it was to craft an image that was somehow evocative of the Southwest, but to do so right next to the State House was a challenge. And that project, I think, paved the way for it paved the way for the Speedway, quite honestly, because I think, when they were vetting who they might work with, I think there was an example that they understood. Then the firm, prior to me getting there, Browning Day, Mullins and Deerdorf at the time, now just Browning Day, was well known for its sports architecture, so that made sense for this selection. So, after the Adel George, there were opportunities at Butler University. Those led the university, Indiana University, and opportunities there, and continued to work on museums at the Indianapolis Museum of Art that opened in 2005, the big renovation there. So all those things, sort of pile up in your resume, and at the close to the end of your career, I think, people felt that it was an opportunity to recognize some of that. And I'm grateful that it has added to the fabric of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So, humbled, happy. I had my family in, one from the East Coast, one from the West Coast, one from the middle. So it was great to celebrate last night with them, and so I'll continue to work, but probably in a slightly less rigorous capacity. I'll be 70 next year.
You paid your dues.
Well, it's time to do some other things. So travel is a big part of that, seeing the world and experiencing other things. So.
Well, congratulations again on both awards.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to
That was my pleasure, Matt. Good to meet you.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Jeff Stivers, congratulations on being awarded the Julian Worth Gold Medal Award. You've been described as both a mentor inside your firm and founder of programs like the ACE Monitoring Initiative. Is it ACE or ACE?
It's ACE.
ACE. The ACE Monitoring Initiative and the Christopher Kelly Leadership Development Program in Kentucky. What drives your passion for building pathways for the next generation?
I've never been asked that question before.
Really?
So I think that's just a really good, interesting question just right off the bat about why is it that you're actually interested in doing this? I think it's because I really believe in the power of architecture and the possibilities that architects have to really impact the communities that they serve. Architecture has been an awesome experience for me. It's given me so much from a personal and professional perspective, and I really want students to be able to have that same experience. So whether it's a student that's coming out of high school or whether it's a college and university student that's trying to find their path, me being able to provide a little bit of guidance along the way to at least be able to help define, say, well, here's some of the opportunities. I think that that's a tremendous thing.
Wonderful. I'd assume you find it pretty rewarding seeing what the next generation does. It's just from your mentorship, especially.
When you provide them with the tools and also the time and the space, I mean, the stuff that they do is amazing. The ACE mentorship program in particular has been adopted by the host high school where that program exists.
Okay.
And as of this fall, they have 100 students enrolled in three different sections of basically an introduction to architecture class that is built on the bones of the ACE mentorship program. So it's amazing. I mean,
Sounds amazing.
you start this little thing and you got 10 people, participating year one. And then you skip forward 13 years, and now you've got 120 people in the program.
That is amazing.
So it's been pretty amazing.
Your colleagues have highlighted how your service is extended from local to state to even national levels of AIA. Looking back, which moment of service or leadership has been the most transformative for you personally?
I think there was a switch that got thrown right about the time I became president-elect of AIA Kentucky, which is our state component. it's interesting when you volunteer to serve and in a leadership capacity, and there's a certain amount of time where you're just trying to figure out how stuff works. And then that transitions into a period of time where we're focused on keeping the lights on, executing this program, making sure we do this, making sure we do that, paying the bills. And then there's the year when you become leader. And it's like, okay, now it's real. You gotta do stuff. You gotta deliver because you're here. You're occupying, time and space, and this has been given to you as an opportunity. So you should do something and make the most of your time that you have. So the year that I was president-elect was when that switch kind of became thrown, and you spend that year putting the parts in place so that the following year when you're president, you can execute on your plans. And then past president is when you kind of wrap a ribbon on that and you're figuring out how to transition to the next generations of leadership. So.
Got it. The gold medal, which is the one we're talking about right now, is the highest recognition an architect can receive from AIA Kentucky. What does this honor mean to you at this point in your career, and how do you hope your example will inspire others in the profession?
Well, I shared some of these comments earlier, but getting personal recognition honestly never gets old. It's like everybody loves that. And even at this stage in my career, it's almost embarrassing how much that I enjoy getting the recognition. But then immediately I have the realization that anything that I am supposedly to have accomplished, it's only been through the collective efforts of other people who have been supporting me, who I've been collaborating with, and it's only through their contributions that really anything is important. Anything that's important that actually gets accomplished. So I start ticking through a list, all of my AIA colleagues, past, current, all of my Ross Torrent colleagues, all of my presidents, all of my current partners and principals, and even the emerging leaders, in our practice, they have supported me in ways that I don't think that they even realize. And really, most important for me personally is my wife's support, because without her, none of this happens. I mean, it's really, I think, a team effort in our life and in our household and our relationship. And it's her support that has made all of this possible. And it's probably the most important piece. So to get back to your question about, I think, what this really means to me, it's really humbling. And it kind of, I'm taking it as additional incentive, additional inspiration to kind of make sure that I continue to contribute in ways that are meaningful. But I certainly appreciate and have deep gratitude for everybody that's contributed to this.
Well, I don't think there should be anything embarrassing about appreciating recognition for your efforts. That being said, how do you hope that your example will inspire others in the profession?
The AIA has always been one of those professional organizations where your experience is what you make it.
Okay.
There are so many tremendous opportunities and so many directions that you can go in if you just make the conscious decision to reach out and engage and grab onto that. It is such a rich and kind of deep experience. So I think the inspiration that I'm kind of taking from this is to continue myself on that journey. I don't see this as some sort of capstone. I think that this is just a milestone on the overall journey. And I hope for others that they see that as well. I'm 30 plus years, into my journey, into this career and into being an architect. And I'm not done. I've still got plenty of time left and a lot to contribute. And by receiving this recognition, I somehow feel like, okay, now the light's still shining on you. So what's next?
That's a great outlook.
And I think that's a question we all ought to be asking, is what's next for us?
For sure. That's a great outlook. Well, again, congratulations. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
My pleasure. It's been very nice chatting with you. Thank you.
So Maggie Hayden, you are getting a Merit Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is for the Major General Emmett J. Bean Federal Center Backfill Modernization. That's
it.
I said it all? Okay, cool.
So, I mean, federal office buildings are often seen as rigid and uninspired. I've been through many of them myself, and I kind of feel that way about a lot of the older ones anyways. What was your design vision for transforming the Bean Center into something collaborative, playful, and light-filled?
So the Bean Center, it's a 1953 building. It's mid-century, concrete, ribbon windows. There's a lot on the inside that is uninspired, and everything looked the same. So from the beginning, we knew we wanted to take the building's bones and make something really nice for the employees and staff that were going to be moved there to work in the facility. All the agencies were coming from off-site and moving into the building, which is a big thing. They know it's this really old, giant building, so we needed to change the space entirely for them. So we really worked hard to create sort of a fun environment for all different types of employees and different types of agencies. We did that by utilizing the existing features of the building. It has these 2 great courtyards. So the building was originally used for like document storage. So now it's for people. So let's use the windows to our advantage.
Sure.
We turned the office blocks away, like perpendicular to the windows, to allow natural light to come all the way in. And we really wanted to work with creating spaces that were flexible and inviting to all different types of employees.
Gotcha. Cool. The use of super graphics and natural light was highlighted as a breakthrough. How did those design choices change the way people experience and navigate the building day to day?
That's a good question. We had a lot. I mean, we had sort of 2 components to the project. One was to design the interior office suites for 3 different agencies. The other was sort of to create building standards for the building as a whole. The building has 1/4 mile long corridors.
Oh, wow.
So we worked with the GSA Art and Architecture program with an artist to create these murals that are huge and very impressive, and situated them along the corridors so that they kind of serve as their own wayfinding aspect. So like someone's coming to their nice new office space, they also have a new way to get there that's beyond just what they were before, which was just white corridors, white ceilings. And like, so now they have these colorful murals along the way. We also set the standards to change the entrances to the suites. So instead of just a door with a side light where you enter your office, we opened those up and created glass storefront entrances that are angled. So they're sort of set off the corridor. So you can see it as you're walking down these really long corridors. There's film on the glass, so like you don't see directly in, but it makes a huge difference as you are like approaching your office, which is really nice.
So you still got all that light, but
You still get all that light. You can see into the suites as opposed to just like darkness, kind of.
Okay. Gotcha. So this project kind of redefines what a government workspace can look like. What lessons from the Bean Center could be applied to rethinking other large-scale institutional interiors?
Well, at Rivers, we strive to create really nice workspaces that are functional and provide good work environments for the people that are going to use them. So this isn't any different for a government office as any other sort of private business client. There's no reason why a government office can't have the same sort of features and everything like that. So I think by working with what we do on a day-to-day basis and bringing that into this government facility that was all like very monotonous and the same can show you that like they can create flexible workspaces that can work for all different types of people, different types of zones for working, whether it's collaborative, individual, private meetings. We were able to offer all of that.
Gotcha. So you pretty much took the standard government office and made it more of a modern day corporate office.
Yeah, we should have pride in where we're working, and there's no reason why that can't apply to
Government employees.
government employees as well.
Fair enough. Congratulations on getting the award again, and I really appreciate your time sharing the story.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. David Morris, you are receiving the Allied Professional Award. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Architects have praised Sierra Pacific for making the specification process seamless. How do you approach being more of a partner than a salesperson?
I think the first thing you got to realize is you have to be honest with them. I get called from a lot of architects or asked to go out and walk a job site. And when I look at it, it's something that's just not our forte, or it's beyond the sizes that we do or something like that. So sometimes you have to be really honest with them. Tell them that, I'm not the person you'll be working with on this project. And being truthful first in the front, they keep asking you back. If I learned a long time ago, if you don't know what you're saying, and you make something up, it usually comes back to bite you.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's just where that comes from. Hey, I've done it. I've made that mistake of not being honest, and you just don't want to go there.
So just having candid conversations, regardless if it's to your benefit or not,
Right.
is more of a partnership for you than that makes sense. Cool. You and I were talking yesterday about sustainability. So sustainability and ethical forestry, they're kind of core to your recognition. How do those commitments show up in ways clients can really see and feel?
Well, I first have to point to our wood. We're owned by the largest private landowner in the United States, and they manage sustainably 2.4 million acres. And that's a huge commitment to the environment.
That's a huge piece of land.
It is. Well, I can't even really fathom it, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But it takes roughly 200 licensed foresters to manage that land, and they work hand in hand with naturalists and botanists and biologists and people they're looking at the whole ecosystem. But we do all that to get the quality of the wood that our products are made out of what they are. A lot of people are, in this day and age, hearing a lot about GMO modified food. People don't realize that trees are GMO modified. They're engineered to grow faster. And that's the kind of wood that people go, oh my gosh, why did old wood windows last and no wood windows or wood siding not last? And a lot of it has to do with the quality of the wood. And so we do something that's probably unheard of to most people, but we actually pay people to climb our trees and pick the pine cones from selected trees that the forest have identified. This is the tree we want the seeds to come from for the seedlings that we will replant when we harvest this forest. And when you do that, Mark Emerson, the son of our founder, likes to say that we're not sustainable. If you're sustainable, you're flat. We have to be more than sustainable. We have a 100-year business plan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you didn't hear me wrong. 100-year business plan on file with the state of California. And in that business plan, the target is to have 3 times the number of trees with twice the diameter. And why would you have to be that far ahead of just planting back one tree for every tree you cut? You can't do that because the population's growing and we need products that come out of the forest, whether it's lumber or whether it's paper or whether it's a plethora of things that do come from the forest. We need good hardy trees. And that just blows my mind. When I first heard that as an employee, I was like, what?
Yeah.
100-year business plan? I mean, I'm so used to people that talk about business plans, it's 3 to 5,
Yeah.
not 100.
I mean, planning beyond your lifespan that is the definition of trying to be something bigger than yourself, I think.
Never thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I have had, do a lot of trips out to the factory, and I had an architect one time ask the question of the forester that we were visiting with that day. And I didn't really hear the question, but I heard the answer. He was laughing, and he said, well, I'll never see the harvest of my crop. And he says, the truth is, probably whoever replaces me, if I have a 30-year career and they have a 30-year career, we're looking at 80 years before we're going to start cutting trees while planting today. So
Wow.
he said it might be the 3rd or 4th person to replace me for that plot of land that sees what we do today come to fruition.
It's a pretty cool legacy, though, even if it's not well known.
Yeah.
That's really cool. From your vantage point, what trends in building products are architects most eager for, but still struggling to access?
It's got to be sizes. I mean, everybody's trying to push the limit in fenestration these days. And it's honestly, it's not really a matter of whether we could build a wood frame as big as somebody might want it, but it's the availability to glass in this country. There are size restrictions. So we get asked to bring in glass from other countries that do jumbo size, and we can do that, but probably not 1 out of 10 projects that we take a look at, when people look at the cost to do that, bring something in from out of the country just to get that size, then the design starts to get VE'd.
Gotcha.
And I don't know how you feel about VEing that. Wish I could remember the quote from somebody that said that being was talking about that one time. Being is really a misnomer. There's no value when you cut the cost of most anything you did. You're cutting the quality. That's the value in
That makes sense. I mean, I've heard there's quality. Probably you can have it good quality, you can have it inexpensive, and you can have it fast. You can't have all three. You can only pick two.
There you go.
So yeah, that kind of fits in there. That's cool.
And that's interesting because the fast it's not fast when you're importing stuff. It's faster when you have the glass being fabricated in the backyard and it comes to our plant in a matter of days. But when we have to bring glass in from Europe or South America or Canada or somewhere like that, it can add months to the lead time. So sometimes it's not just the cost. It's the amount of time it's going to take to build that project.
Sure.
Sir.
So last question, not being an AIA member, but receiving an AIA award as an allied professional, what does that mean to you? I mean, that's kind of awesome, right? I mean, to get recognition for your efforts that way.
Honestly, it means the world. It blew me away.
Really?
I did not even know that board existed.
Mm-hmm.
I do what I do because I see tremendous value in AIA. I've been in this industry for over 40 years, and I've always partnered with architecture communities wherever I go and however I can help. And I actually didn't learn until about 3 years ago that I can serve on the board. So I currently sit on the board in Nashville, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee AIA chapter.
That's cool.
And have actually already had discussions with our sponsorship committee about maybe we need to look at that award because we don't currently have that award at that chapter, not like Kentucky did us. So again, it was a surprise, and it was it surprised me.
That's awesome. Congratulations again. Thank you. And also thank you for taking the time to share a little bit on the podcast. So
Thank you, Matt.
thanks, dude.